This episode brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Shifting a little money here, a little there, and hoping it all works out? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can get a better budgeter and potentially lower your insurance bill too. You tell Progressive what you want to pay for car insurance, and they'll help find you options within your budget. Try it today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
Thursday Night Football is on, and it's only on Prime Video. This week, it's an old-school rivalry as the Las Vegas Raiders collide with the Denver Broncos. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. Eastern with football's best party, TNF Tonight, presented by Verizon. Not a Prime member? Not a problem. Simply sign up for a 30-day free trial. It's the Raiders and the Broncos, Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern, only on Prime Video. Restrictions apply. See Amazon.com/Amazon Prime for details.
We may be about on the cusp of the absolute biggest news in obesity medicine since the launch of GLP-1s for obesity. This is huge. This is the news for this week. It's changed about 15 times since I sat down to prepare for this show today. Let's get into it. Welcome to On the Pen.
Welcome to the On the Pen podcast with your host, Dave Knapp.
We've got some crazy breaking news today to get into in the world of GLP-1 medications, and I can't wait to do that. But before we do me a favor. If obesity medicine news from the patient perspective is important to you as a patient and empowers you to have more competent and confident conversations with your doctor, please hit the subscribe button. It's the easiest form of advocacy that you can do because it helps the algorithm and trains the algorithm to know that this information is valuable, that it's important, and that it matters to patients who are seeking to get better health outcomes, right? To just have better conversations with your doctor and have better health outcomes. But we've got breaking news and some of the biggest news that we've ever had the opportunity to share on a podcast. I'm so thankful that this dropped today. Multiple reports, including the one who got the scoop, Max Bayer, the health reporter from Endpoints, who we had on this show just a couple of weeks ago, reports that Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk are preparing to announce price deals with the White House on most favored nations. This is a story that we have been teeing up for literally months. Most favored nations is something that I was following way before I ever got into content creation, something that I thought was a good pathway to get lower prescription drugs in the United States. And then when the Biden administration essentially was ready to give away coverage for Medicare for obesity medicine, the Trump administration came in and said, hey, let's dangle a carrot here and see if we can get these costs lowered through most favored nations, and basically dangling Medicare coverage as a carrot to get these companies to the table to lower the price. So here's the report. The report now is that Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk will reportedly be offering the entry-level doses of their obesity medications for $149 a month, and in exchange for that, they will receive Medicare coverage for obesity treatment. So this ties, as I said, back into most favored nation pricing, meaning the prices will have to lowest global price, right? So when the immediate question that you're all asking right now, I think is probably the same question that I've been asking, and that's how much will the upper doses be? How much will the 5 milligram be? How much will the 15 milligram be? Obviously, we don't have information on that. But when you look at the most favored nations, if these companies are agreeing to most favored nations, then one could extrapolate that they will be bringing down the cost of the higher doses as well to be in alignment with the lowest price that other like nations are paying for this. That's the way and the framework with which most favored nations works, is that whatever the nearest economy to us is paying as far as the lowest price for GLP-1s, that's what Americans will pay too. And so the announcement is set to be on Thursday, where reportedly, again, it's coming from Max Bayer of Endpoints, a friend of OnThePen, somebody we had on a couple of weeks ago. Thursday, there will be an announcement with Novo, with Lilly. We've been teeing this up for literally months. And so if you've been following OnThePen, you have been educated on, how this all was likely to unfold. And there's a little bit of indication, I feel like, today in this, because we've been teeing up and just said, wait, we know these things are happening. We know people in the industry who are talking that this movement has been ongoing for months and months and months. And this looks like to be where this is going to land. Obviously, the question remains, what will the higher doses be? In terms of cost, that will all have to come out. But if you just think about it, $149, even if you're buying 2.5 milligram pens to make 5, you're still at $300, which is $200 less than you're paying for 5 milligrams now. So how the economics work out here will all be very interesting to see. But I think that this will be a very positive thing for accessibility to the branded medications of GLP-1s for obesity. So this is news that we've been waiting for. Super exciting news. Now, you also have to think, as you plan out what this could possibly mean for accessibility even to the compounded medications. Now, will the Trump administration, as part of this negotiation, be enforcing on compounds in terms of cracking down on the ability for compound pharmacies to make copies of these medications now that they're out of shortage? All be very interesting to see, but this could drive down the price of the compounds if the compounds are allowed to remain available as well. And so there's a ton of news to get into, but I wanted to lead with this right off the bat because this is amazing news. We are doing this podcast live today, so thank you for being here. If you're new, drop an N in the chat. Let us welcome you into the chat today. I know there's about 260 people watching across the platforms right now. Welcome. Hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button, do all the interaction with this as your little form of advocacy today. Something we've been fighting for a long time is lower cost and accessibility to these drugs. And today we are getting some news that it looks like things are turning that way. So very, very, very exciting for patients who to whom accessibility matters. So Lilly and Novo would be joining Pfizer, AstraZeneca, and a host of other companies that have already agreed to participate in the Trump administration's drug pricing platform they're calling TrumpRX. All of this sort of spilling out from the most favored nations. If you need more information about that, go to our Substack at obesity.news and just type in MFN or most favored nations. And we've given you tons of information about what this is as we've been following this very closely. So if this goes through, millions of Americans who have been locked out of treatment, especially those on Medicare, because that's, again, part of this is that it would reportedly add obesity coverage to Medicare. And I just have to stop and think of all the faces and the names that pop up in the comments of the videos that we post and the Substack articles that we write. And I'm so grateful for each and every one of you who are on Medicare, who have felt left out, who have felt unseen. Today, that seems to be changing. If the reports are accurate, it sounds like obesity medicine will be added to Medicare. And that is, as an advocate and somebody who has fought for this, as somebody who has given the last almost 3 years, just shy of 3 years of my life to this mission, I am overwhelmed with gratitude to be able to bring such good news. How many days have we sat down to do this podcast, and the news that we brought only brings fear and anxiety and the terrifying thought of losing access to a medication that is giving us our lives back. That is the bottom line. When you boil all of this down, when you boil this whole conversation about GLP-1s and obesity treatment down, it's people getting their life back. It's you being able to play on the ground with your child. It's you being able to run around with your dog in the backyard. It's you being able to walk around at Disney, to fit into a ride, to not have to ask for a seatbelt extender. It's all of those deeply emotional moments that we all experience once our body is in a position to be able to move like it should, or like it once could not. And I think of everyone who has been priced out, boxed out, and had to deal with all the anxious news over the last few years. It just feels very good. I'm just having a moment here because it feels very good to bring good news to the community. So we'll see how this all shakes out. We just have preliminary reports here again from Endpoints, our friend Max Bayer, friend of OnThePen, the health reporter over there, who we just had, and I'll link it below after this podcast post, just had a conversation with Max about this, who said he's a reporter within, the gaggle of reporters in the White House. When they talk about most favored nations and when they talk about health issues, Max is right there. And Max believed that this was in the works, that it was happening. And so Max is a bit vindicated today too. So I'm just so happy for everyone in the community who hasn't enjoyed the same level of accessibility to these medications that I have over the last few years. There's so many faces and names that I think of that are in that Medicare world who've had to navigate that. And I'm so thankful for this news today for those people, because the noise has finally been heard. Action is finally being taken, and things are actually looking like they're going to change for the better. So we saw a lot of news around this over the last couple of hours as this news came out. We've got a lot more to talk about here on the podcast today, in addition to this breaking news, but wanted to lead with this right off the bat. This is just amazing news, and it looks like some really positive news for those who have been fighting for accessibility. Now let's talk about the second story that we have today, which is about what's going on with Pfizer and Novo Nordisk. Now, Pfizer was trying to break up this duopoly, right? They've had a few obesity candidates. Danuglipron is one of them. It was kind of their version of orforglipron. If you don't know what that is, it is essentially the oral small molecule drug from Eli Lilly, a GLP-1 that's going to come out here in the next few months. And Pfizer had their own version of that, which they had to ultimately abandon because of liver signals and liver toxicity. And so they looked to get back into the game by acquiring a company called Metsera. Now, we've covered this again very closely at obesity.news, which is our Substack. If you go there right now or go to our link tree, you can learn more about this specific company and their candidates. But they have long-acting amylin, long-acting GLP-1s, like a once monthly shot. And these will likely be therapies that are combined that will probably eclipse anything that we've seen in terms of its ability to get weight down for patients struggling with the disease of obesity. And so Pfizer swooped in to try to purchase them, had a really good thing going. And then at the last minute, Novo Nordisk came in with a higher offer, presumably to preserve their duopoly, right? So Novo's bid right now is at around $86 a share, or around $10 billion. And Pfizer went to $70 a share, roughly $8.1 billion, which was higher than their original offer, and then filed a lawsuit over alleged breach of contract to Metsera. So this, we just got news that the Delaware judge who's overseeing this case in the Pfizer and Novo battle over Metsera pushed the restraining order hearing to later this week to avoid interrupting this bidding war that's going on for Metsera, which Metsera has to be loving right now. So I always like to bring these stories back to what it means to you as a patient. Obviously, breaking up the duopoly is something that we would love to see happen. Now, it means a little bit less now than it meant maybe 2 hours ago, before we had this announcement on most favored nations and the reduction of these prices, which again, we'll give you more information as it comes out. This is all preliminary reports. We don't have timelines. We don't know what the upper doses are going to cost. We don't know what kind of games could still be played. So like there's a lot of unknowns, right? That we'll have to unpack over the coming days, and we'll get that on Thursdays. But drug makers are fighting like their lives depend on it, because the next frontier in obesity medicine beyond GLP-1 is already here. And whoever controls the next wave is going to win access and pricing leverage and power. And of course, Novo wants to preserve that. Novo, whose stock has been plummeting over the last few months. So if anyone thought that this obesity medicine era would end at semaglutide or tirzepatide or even retatrutide, we barely passed the first mile marker in this, which is very exciting for people who need, better, stronger therapies. But we would love to see another juggernaut like Pfizer get into the race, because this breaks up that duopoly. We will see, and interestingly enough, the phase 3 trial for survodutide from Boehringer Ingelheim, which would be a third company to enter this race, that trial wrapped up. We don't have that data yet from Boehringer Ingelheim, which is making me nervous, because survodutide, if you remember, is a GLP-1 and glucagon dual agonist. So like retatrutide, it has glucagon, but unlike retatrutide, it doesn't have GIP. It's just GLP-1 and glucagon. And the fact that we don't have that data yet is making me really nervous about what is in that data, because that was our other really good shot at over the next, let's say, year to year and a half, breaking up the duopoly, is getting Boehringer Ingelheim in here. But we don't. And by the way, when I say Boehringer Ingelheim, does anyone else in their mind go immediately with their neurodivergence to the song John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt, except with Boehringer Ingelheim? Like Boehringer Ingelheimer Schmidt. It just, every time it's the neurodivergence, it's always trying to pull me off track. But be interesting to get that data, because we don't have it yet, and I'm a little bit nervous about the fact that we don't have that yet. But hopefully we'll see that in the coming weeks. And there will be a lot of news out of Obesity Week this week too, which is going on. I know a lot of you are down there right now. And of course, we'll look for some great reports out of Obesity Week. I did not end up going to Obesity Week this week. A number of reasons. I just came back from health. There was a death in our family a couple of days ago as well. So I've got a funeral that I need to be here for as well. So anyways, breaking up the duopoly, good thing. Let's see what happens with Boehringer Ingelheim and their survodutide data. We'd like to see that. Hopefully we'll see that soon. And we'd like to see Pfizer win this battle against Novo Nordisk. We just would. Story number 3, we're gonna talk a little bit about the Hims and Hers earnings call, which is not something we normally talk about, but there was some interesting stuff that I thought was in this Hims and Hers earnings call that may have a really interesting sort of shakeup to the landscape of telehealth and compounds and everything like that. First of all, I want to just lead by saying there is a lot of chatter going on within the industry from industry professionals, people in the know, that the Trump administration vis-a-vis the FDA is getting ready to, I don't know what the right phraseology here is, but essentially allow for the compounding through 503A and 503B pharmacies of about 20 different peptides. So think BPC 157, TB 500, a lot of those other peptides that otherwise are research grade peptides now, and that's the only way people can get them, allowing for compound pharmacies to have them so that doctors can prescribe them. That sounds like it's imminent, and maybe around the time that the government opens back up, whenever that ultimately happens, that the FDA is looking to make an announcement on that. So just as kind of a backdrop of some of the chatter that's going on in that world right now. So when we talk about the Hims earnings call today, one of the interesting things that they announced is that they're back in talks with Novo Nordisk to offer oral Wegovy on their platform. Record scratch, like, are you serious? Do y'all remember the drama that happened with Hims and Hers and Novo Nordisk about 8 months ago, when they were offering the cash pay Wegovy, and then all of a sudden Novo Nordisk dropped them like a bad habit, had a whole bunch of negative things to say about them in the press. They're now back in talks now that there's a new sheriff in town over at Novo Nordisk. And it sounds like Mike Dudestar, the new CEO at Novo, is cozying up with Andrew Dudum over at Hims and Hers, and Hims may be positioned to offer the oral Wegovy on their platform. be very interesting to see how this all pans out. But what I found most interesting, sort of buried in the Hims and Hers earnings call, was that they quietly referenced evaluating a compounded GLP GIP combination to make available to their patients, which would be compound tirzepatide. So to this stage, they've never offered compounded tirzepatide. And how does that all change? Like, what would their price point have to be now if you can go out and get 2.5 milligrams of tirzepatide at $150 a month? What does that do for the price of compounds? It's just so crazy how fast the news changes in this space. We got about 400 folks watching across all the platforms. I want to take a moment and just say, hit the like, hit the bell, interact with it, drop a comment. It's your easiest form of advocacy to help spread the word about what we're doing here at OnThePen. We are a patient-centric obesity medicine news platform, and we try to bring patients news that empowers them to have more competent and confident conversations with their doctor that ultimately helps them lead to better health outcomes. That's what we do. So when we talk about our OTP community, when we bring any information, it's all designed to help you all just live a better life. And so if you found that beneficial anywhere along your journey, put it in the comments and let me know. But also hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe, do all the things that really help us and cost you nothing. It costs you nothing to do that, and it really helps the work that we're doing. And as I announced this past week, I am doing this full time now. I'm doing this full time. So OnThePen is what I do all day, every day, or in my case, all Dave, every Dave. It's what I do. And I'm so thankful that you all have given me the platform to do this. And we could not. Wall Street Journal is now reporting, Gary said, a lot of this news is breaking. Wall Street Journal just said TERS will be $299, not $149. It will be interesting, Gary, to see if that is for all doses. My sense is if there's a separation there in that price, that could potentially be for all doses, maybe not just the starter dose. But Gary, you're right in front of the Wall Street Journal article that you're referencing there. Please let us know if you know more. This is all of this is happening in real time. I do want to take a moment to just sort of build on what I was saying. I'm doing this full time now, and I could not do this full time without the sponsorships that we have on this podcast. So I want to thank our friend Shed. Shed is a wonderful telehealth company. They've got coaching. They've got more than anything. What excites me about Shed is their partnership with Strive Pharmacy, who I've gotten to know, who I really trust. When I was thinking about partnering with somebody who offers compounds, because that means a great deal to a great number of people in this community, I wanted to make sure we partnered with somebody who had their ducks in a row when it came to who they partnered with on the pharmacy side. So they have a special relationship with Strive Pharmacy, who I trust implicitly based upon my interactions with them and learning more about their systems and processes. You can go to tryshed.com and use code OTP25. That gives us a little bit of credit for what we do here, right? But if you use code OTP25, it helps us support the channel. And so if you are looking for great care, if you're looking for coaching and great access to both branded and compound medications, check out tryshed.com and use the code OTP25. Thank them on the socials for supporting what we do here at OnThePen, because without them, we can't do this for nothing, right? I'd still be doing my day job. I wouldn't be here doing what I love at 1:00 in the afternoon, talking about this amazing breaking news in the world of GLP-1. So thank you all for being here, and thank you for being the best part of what we do. And thank you to Shed for partnering with OTP. Let's keep moving along, because there's other stuff to get into on the topic of, we're just talking about why it's so important that we partner with somebody who uses trustworthy pharmacies. Check out this story. So we've been following this since January. We covered a report that came out from the FDA, which had basically their findings after doing an inspection at ProRx, which is a 503B pharmacy. We said then that the oversight and compounding needed to be tightened, not to eliminate access, but to protect patients who are relying on it, right? So now we have a recall, and this recall from ProRx affects about 39,000 vials between semaglutide. It's mostly semaglutide. It's just a couple thousand vials of tirzepatide, mostly semaglutide. Specific lot numbers have been published, and they've recalled this stuff because of a lack of assurance of sterility. That is why we're so passionate about talking about these topics, where we spend so much time educating on 503A, 503B pharmacies, because as patients, we ought to know that when we're injecting something into our body, that it is safe. that it is safe. And so I'm not bringing this information to panic you or to worry you about compounds in any way, shape, or form. I'm bringing it so that you can be empowered, because at 40,000 vials affects assuredly some people in this community and within the sound of my voice. So we're going to publish that for you. It's all available on the FDA website. I'll link it in my link tree if you're watching after the live, so you can go directly to that. I'll just link directly to the FDA website rather than publishing it on my own, so that you can see the vials that were affected and the lot numbers that were affected. But you're going to want to check your lot number. You're going to want to ask questions of your doctor. You're not being dramatic to reach out and say, hey, I've got this stuff and I need to know if it's safe, right? So this is what a maturing, conversation about accessibility looks like. It looks like highlighting these stuff when flags need to be thrown on the play, right? Pressure, scrutiny, continuous improvement are all part of what's important when we have this conversation about access. We don't want access for the sake of access. We want safe access, because patients should be able to trust the medication that they're being prescribed and trust and know that it's safe. I believe in the compounding space wholeheartedly. I love what they're doing, and I believe it's a huge part of the future of medicine in this country, but they need to be held to a very high standard. It sounds like that's what the FDA is doing with ProRx. We're going to jump into another story that kind of bleeds into this, because I feel like we're covering a lot of stuff today. Are y'all still with me? I hope that you're all still with me. It looks like I'm going to add a little bit because people are dropping in the comments. I really appreciate y'all being here. Thank you for hanging out with me today. Gary and Debbie sort of bringing some additional information. The lowest dose of Novo Nordisk Wegovy would be offered through TrumpRX at $149. And the starting dose of Lilly's Zepbound would be sold at $299. Gary says, in addition, Lilly would be selling the starting dose of its weight loss pill or Forglipron for $149 via TrumpRx. If the drug, which is now in testing, is approved by the FDA. That could also mean that the Trump administration may be in talks with for fast tracking or Forglipron in terms of doing the what was the word that they used? Essentially a fast track approval that applies to certain drugs that maybe fit a certain criteria in terms of health goals that are aligned with the administration. And so I think this probably falls in there. So not only could we see $149 or Forglipron from TrumpRX, maybe we see it sooner rather than later. So many moving parts going on in the world right now of obesity medicine. And man, is it fun to be here talking about good news. Put it in the chat if it's good to be talking about some good news. So let's talk about tirzepatide and inflammation. Like what does this drug not do? I've seen a lot of posts go around on the socials over this last week, and I just thought it was worth talking about today because we've talked about these medications in terms of weight loss for so long, but these are metabolic drugs. They're cardiometabolic drugs. These are drugs that are managing systemic inflammation and offering inflammatory modulation for people. The more data we see, the more this class looks like an antidote to whatever it is that's destroyed our gut microbiome, that is more specifically destroyed that signaling between our gut and our brain, right? That silencing the food noise that we talk about. It's a restoration of a natural signal that I think for many of us, we felt it for the first time as adults when we got OnThePen. And so it's amazing to see what these medications are doing. And I've always believed that patients should be free with their doctor to decide whether their therapy supports their health. And so that's why I just wanted to say, with a lot of conversation that's been going on online over the last week, I don't think BMI should be the only qualifier that tells us whether somebody should or should not be on a GLP-1. I think we're starting to see so many benefits from these drugs. So many benefits outside of weight loss, so many benefits outside of weight management, that I just believe that doctors and patients should be able to make this decision based upon all the data that's out there and sort of independent of what their BMI is. Because I believe what we're seeing is that these drugs have major benefits. And so all I'm advocating for is more conversations with your doctor and more conversations, about the benefit of these drugs outside of weight loss, right? Because I just think that I don't know how to put it into words exactly. They're the antidote to whatever has been ailing our bodies. And I think you could point the finger at a lot of things, but I think in reality, it is a lot of things. It's genetics. It's some of the foods that we eat. It's some of the drugs that we take. It's some of the antibiotics. It could be a number of things. But when you talk about this, it all goes back to gut health, right? And gut health seems to be destroyed in this country in terms of the bad bacteria that's floating around that kills these endogenous hormones. Your body makes GLP-1, but guess what? DPP-4 destroys it. What is DPP-4? It's a byproduct of bad gut bacteria. In fact, before GLP-1s even existed, we had a class of medications called DPP-4 inhibitors, something that got rid of that DPP-4 so that your natural incretin hormones could flourish, right? But then we realized we could make agonist, GLP-1 receptor agonists that were also sort of mimetics of the natural hormone that survived that DPP-4, right? So this has all been a natural evolution, but whatever it is that's plaguing our guts in the first place to make them unhealthy, these medications seem to be the antidote. And I believe that who that benefits goes beyond the simple conversation of just folks with, high BMIs. That's all I'm trying to say. I'm becoming, the more I learn about these medications, and again, I'm not a medical provider. I'm not a doctor in any way, shape, or form. I jokingly call myself a pretendocrinologist. I'm just an advocate who has spent the last 3 years of my life immersed in this in a way that very few people on the planet have been. When I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, I just wasn't going to take a drug that I didn't know about. And I just had set out to learn everything I can. And in a world where information is right at our fingertips, I've just immersed myself in it over the last couple of years. And I just think these benefits extend far beyond just people living with obesity. And I can't wait to see more data that supports that, but I think I've seen enough of it from our community, and that's a data point in itself. The value and benefit that people have seen outside of the weight loss with these medications. I see Cloakster in the house. Thank you for being here. Sue the Dude's in the house. Love to see some of the OGs. Thank you for hanging out with us today here. We've been going through a whole host of breaking news and information. Listen, when we talk about access to these medications and we talk about insurance coverage, have you all ever heard of the company Claimable? Claimable is another sponsor of this podcast that allows us to do this each and every week. And I'm so thankful for our friends over at Claimable who have a tool at getclaimable.com/OTP that helps you fight insurance denials for your medication. So if you've ever been denied Zepbound, denied Wegovy by your insurance company, Claimable has about a 50% track record of getting you back on the GLP-1 for obesity. They've got a much higher track record with other drugs outside of the obesity class. These are particularly hard to get covered for people and get insurance to play along, but they're getting better and better and better at it with their tool that they've developed at getclaimable.com. You can use code OTP10 to save 10%. It's a very marginal fee. It's like $40 with a 50% track record of getting you back on your GLP-1. This one is a no-brainer, folks. If you've lost coverage and we're getting the medicine for $25 a month, why not take a shot with Claimable and their tool? They're wonderful people. They're also leading some lawsuits against PBMs who are breaking the law allegedly to keep people off these medications. So they're fighting the good fight, friends. And another one of our sponsors here at the podcast who help us do this each and every week. They're the reason I can do this full time now. These sponsors. So please, when you think about how you can support the work that we do, obviously liking, sharing, all that stuff helps. But using our special links and the savings that we offer at otplinks.com for Claimable, Shape'a, integrated peptides, Shed, that helps to support the work that we do. And so to the extent that those will bring value to you as a follower of OTP, we ask that you would use them and thank them for supporting the work that we do. We're going to jump to a closing topic here today, and that is that all this news that we've been able to bring you today just shows you how much access is shifting in this country. Just tremendous access in terms of what's happening with most favored nations, in terms of how that could drive down the cost of these medications and expand Medicare accessibility. It's so great to see things positively happening for patients in this space instead of just more deny more. I mean, what other group of people has been so unseen and unheard and brushed off like the obesity community? Listen, we are a people who are determined, who know how to fight the good fight. And we know how to fight even if the end result isn't going to be what we want. Because how many of us have fought our whole lives against the disease of obesity, only to find yourself back at the same starting point over and over and over again, but still we try. And that forges a sort of character that is rare and unique to this community. And I'm so thankful that today we're being seen, that positive things are happening. So whether you're on the pen, whether you're on a peptide or just cheering from the sidelines, I thank you all so much for being here, and thank you to our sponsors. Listen, if you want to know a little update on my personal journey, I am down to my lowest weight that I've ever been in the last 10 years of my life. And that was 3 years of being on the pen and going up and down and up and down, up and down on the highest dose even. And the only thing that really moved the needle for me was my numberless scale that I got with Shape'a, who is our third sponsor of the podcast. Thankfully, they jumped in to be a sponsor as well. But my numberless scale keeps me engaged with my health because I step on this thing every day, and it gives me 10 days worth of data zoomed out instead of giving me a number each day. And that number, who can identify with me in the comments of this video? Who has ever been on the scale and it's gone up 5 pounds, even though you're doing everything right? And the next thing you know, you aren't stepping on your scale for another month because you're so dejected from that negative feedback. Even though on an intellectual level, I didn't gain 5 pounds, right? But it messes with you. The numberless scale has tapped into a magical formula that helps people stay engaged with their health. It's helped me. I'm down to 265 pounds today. That is the lowest weight that I've been in 10 years. I'm just off of my lowest weight of my adult life since I was in high school. And I'm so thankful for that. And Shape has helped me to rediscover that. They can help you too. home.myshape'a.com/OTP, and code OTP30 is going to save you 30% on that. But what a fun day. I'm going to open this up to any questions that you have because we've got a little bit of time left here. We got 500 people watching the stream across the various platforms. So thank you. Hit the thumbs up button, hit the like button, drop a comment. Let us know that you're here. Let us know, especially if you're new here. We'd love to welcome you, but it's so great to be here with you all today. If you have any questions, again, the news from the top here, an announcement on most favored nations will be coming on Thursday. The preliminary reports are that GLPs will be offered as low as $149 for the starting dose. It sounds like maybe that's shifted on tirzepatide, Zepbound, maybe a little bit more, but all this will come out in the wash over the next couple of days. But it sounds like the positive news, what we do know, and this is from Max Baer at Endpoints, is that we are actually getting cheaper GLP-1s, and that it's likely that these will be added to Medicare as well. So it's a huge deal for patients, huge deal for people living with obesity. And so good news, sure. Just what we're waiting to see is how good of news is it. Incretin Science wants to know if I'm streaming on TikTok. I am not. I'm just over here on YouTube. I am over here on, let's see, we're on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitter right now, or X. That's where we're streaming today, but we'll probably jump on TikTok a little bit later. Which GLP-1 costs are coming down, semaglutide, tirzepatide, or both? The costs for both branded are going down. That's the news. I think I just probably recapped that for you, so maybe you heard that, but $149 for the starting dose of Wegovy. Sounds like $299 for the starting dose of Zepbound, which is $150, or sorry, $50 lower than it is now. But I would be interested to see if they tier that across all doses. So we'll have to see. But how much the prices are going to go down, we don't know. Has anyone discussed whether or not the lower prices will affect availability and supply? Will there be enough to go around? Well, the good news is, Yellowstone Jayhawk, is that if there's not enough to go around, we have plenty of 503B pharmacies that can sort of fill that gap and fulfill that role for us. So supply doesn't concern me with the accessibility and the backstop that we have of compound pharmacies. But again, we'll have to see how this all comes out in the wash over the next couple of days. The official announcement will come on Thursday. And so at that point, we'll have more information. I'd be interested to see if there's going to be through TrumpRX or if it'll be available through all pharmacies at a lower price. That's a really good question. I believe TrumpRX and their direct consumer platform, so NovoCare and Lilly Direct, will probably be where these prices are available to start with. But you see, with Lilly Direct, we got an announcement this past week that Lilly Direct is expanding out to Walmart pharmacies. So you'll be able to get your Zepbound vials through Walmart pharmacies coming mid-month here, just in about 2 weeks or so. So that's tremendous news. 500 folks watching. Thank you for being here. If you're watching here on any of the platforms, please hit the thumbs up button, engage with the content a little bit, and it helps to spread the word about what we're doing. What about insurance covering? Plenty of formularies are excluding. Yeah, absolutely, Dawn. A lot of formularies are excluding. That's why we partner with Claimable, because they have a 50% track record at fighting against that nonsense. Like, insurance companies rely on you not fighting your denials. Like 90% or some crazy number, 90% I think was the last number I heard, of denials are never fought. But with the lowering of price, that's the biggest barrier to insurance adding these to their formularies, is the cost of these medications. So we should see that coming soon. Donna wants to know, are these medications going to get approved for fatty liver and heart disease? We've already seen the fatty liver indication for Wegovy, I believe, earlier this year. I do believe we'll see the same indication for tirzepatide over the next year or so. Are these medications going to be approved for heart disease or heart failure with preserved ejection fraction? We do see that indication for Wegovy. We do see that recent data seems to point to tirzepatide having similar benefits to dulaglutide, its previous predecessor from Eli Lilly, Trulicity. I do believe that they'll get that indication at some point as well. Lots of congratulations. Dewey just used Claimable. I hope that works for you. Let's see here. Trying to forward to any questions. Incretin Science, one of our faves around here. Thank you for being here. Have you heard from the guy you interviewed that participated in the clinical trials from survodutide? I have not, but I don't know if you were here, Incretin Science, a little bit earlier when we were talking about that the phase 3 has wrapped up, and we don't have the data. So I am concerned that we don't have data on phase 3 survodutide. It makes me wonder if that data is not good. So we'll have to see. I think we should get that in the next few days, but I haven't heard from him in a while. I should reach back out to him and see how he's doing for sure. Is this lowering the price on the pens or the vials only? So we don't have that granular of detail right now, Emily, but my sense is the lower cost option will likely be for the vials, but we'll have to see. Stanley wants to know if anybody's at Obesity Week. I am not. I typically am at Obesity Week, or I was last year, I should say. We had a death in our family this week, and I just got back from a long trip, so I'll be here back to attend a funeral this week. But I know many people are down there. Let's see if we got any questions here. I really appreciate y'all hanging out with me. We've gone about 40 minutes on this live stream. We've got about 510 people watching across the platforms. I really appreciate you joining us today. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being the best part of what we do here at On the Pen. I really appreciate you. Yeah, Mike on a Mission is down there. I know the plus size ladies are down there. It's in Atlanta. So there's a lot of content creators in the GLP-1 space that are in Atlanta. So I know that they're planning on being there. I think the Downsized was going to have like a meetup or something too. That may have already happened though. We don't get the vials in the UK, but I think it's a brilliant outcome for all those using Lilly Direct for the vials. I know you do, Lori. GLP-1 Journey and Review. Okay, thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Joss. Is that Joss? Joss, thank you for sharing that. Lilly stock is flat, which is an interesting, that's something that we watch when we think, how much is this really going to benefit patients? You don't see it going up, seeing down, because I think there's a lot of unknowns right now. I think that's why Lilly stock is flat. I think we'll see movement after the announcement. What they're going to have to leverage there is they open up the obesity market. That's obviously a positive for doing a higher volume of scripts, right? That's a really positive thing for Eli Lilly. Now, when you think about it, you're going to offset some of those gains by lowering the price, right? And so that's what they're trying to sort of figure out right now. Novo's down 1.5%. I feel like Novo is always down 1.5%. That's pretty much par for the course for Novo over the last 6 months, isn't it? But Novo, the part of this news is that Novo's lowest dose of Wegovy down to 149, which is where that drug belongs. I mean, across all doses, I could see maybe going up to 250 for the highest dose, but it should be significantly cheaper than tirzepatide is, in my opinion. Although we may see some unique cardiac benefits with semaglutide that we don't necessarily see with tirzepatide. We talked about that a little bit this past week as well. If you missed that, go back, check out our Substack at obesity.news. The stock market as a whole is down, Debbie is saying, which is the fact that Lilly's flat is probably a good thing for them. Novo has a lot of issues with their board and leadership. Yes, they do. A good place to get online. GLP, our friends at Shed are always a great option. You can go to shed.com. tryshed.com, and you can use our code OTP25 Dewey, and that'll save you 25%. I think it saves about $50. There's no platform fee if you're on compounds, but they'll help you get branded medication if you need that as well. So thank you to our friends at Shed for sponsoring the podcast. Let's see here. I'm jumping through trying to get some more questions. I hope Viking gets on the market in 2026. Viking, I think, is definitely not going to be on the market in 2026. They may be sold sometime in 26. But Viking Therapeutics is just, at the point where they're starting their phase 3 trials. So I would expect Viking on the market sometimes late 2027, like sometime after retatrutide comes out. But I think some of the interesting things that we've seen with Viking Therapeutics would lead me to believe that its VK2735 injectable candidate could be, could rival retatrutide in the weight loss department. Although, you're not going to necessarily get all the same benefits because you don't have the glucagon agonism. It's a GLP-1 GIP combo like tirzepatide. It just seems to be a better molecule, better binding affinity, or, something about the VK2735 molecule seems to be superior in early looks at it to tirzepatide. Viking, 2028, maybe 2027. Any Met news? So we covered that a little bit earlier. Sue the dude. We do know that there was a hearing that took place, or that was going to take place, between the two parties. The Delaware judge in that Pfizer Novo battle over Met pushed the restraining order hearing to avoid interrupting what's really become a bidding war. Sounds like later this week that will take place. Be interesting to see. Well, that's where we're going to end it here today for the podcast. I really appreciate it. It's hard to end it with 530 people in the chat between the different platforms, but I thank you all for being here. And I really want to encourage you all once again to subscribe wherever you're watching, to check out and subscribe to our emails at obesity.news. Just type that in your browser. It'll take you right there. And for all of the savings, for all of the people that allow me to do this podcast full time now, go to otplinks.com, where you're going to learn more about all of our partners there. And there's a lot of stuff that's there just in terms of resources too. So I really recommend that you check that out. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for being the best part of what we do at On the Pen. I couldn't, wouldn't, shouldn't, never even would consider doing it without you. Y'all make this such a special journey for me to be able to be running On the Pen here. And you're the reason that I do everything I do. I wake up in the morning thinking about this stuff, and I go to sleep thinking about it at night. And that's why days like today are very exciting for me, because I love nothing more than to bring good news to this community. So I want to thank you all for being here, and we will check you on the next one. Thank you, my friends.
At Lowe's, this Veterans Day and every day, verified military members, veterans, and their spouses get automatic silver status in My Lowe's Rewards with free standard shipping, plus 10% off eligible purchases with no annual limit. It's one way we honor and give back to those who have served and still do. Learn more now at lowes.com/military. 10% discount can't be combined with another offer. Exclusions, terms, and conditions apply. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.